to welcome everyone to today's Rejoice webinar. We are with Dr. Larry Freeney on the topic of fully alive, thriving with 5 kids under 6. Welcome,
Woo!
Dr. Larry.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me again, Liz.
Round of applause. So it's an honor to introduce Dr. Larry Freeney, the Director of Education and Assessments for the Latari Group and a licensed professional counselor supervisor and an approved clinical supervisor. Those are the last 3 added letters there. Well, Dr. Freeney holds a PhD in counselor education and is widely respected clinician and speaker. He's perhaps best known as the driving force behind Fully Alive. Through this Catholic-based personal mastery program and his show on Radio Maria, he empowers individuals to reject mediocrity and pursue excellence in alignment with their divine purpose. Drawing on his extensive background in psychological assessment and financial coaching, Dr. Freeney's work is dedicated to helping people integrate faith and reason to achieve true personal mastery. Welcome, Dr. Larry.
Thank you so much, Liz, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us maybe one cute story or one story of chaos from your recent addition to the family.
Well, let's see. So my newest daughter, she's a month old. Her name is Estella. We call her Esty. And currently, out of all my children, she has the best, neck strength out of all of them. So, newborns, they have like no neck strength. But Esty basically came out of the womb being able to hold her head up. So that was always something that's cute. So she's very good at that.
That is really cool. That is amazing. Man, she might be like a power lifter or something.
One can only hope. So we'll see where that takes her. But so far, she's able to hold that head up.
So, I only have one kid under 5, and sometimes I feel like I'm struggling to keep my head out of water. It's underwater. So what do you do to be not living in survival mode? Or are you in survival mode?
So here's one thing I want to start off with is that no matter whether you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 5 kids, or 10 kids, it's going to be difficult. Now, it never really gets easy. It gets easier. So survival mode is basically when you first start out. So when we first had Esty, the first couple weeks are already survival mode because you're used to a certain level of sleep that gets disrupted, your whole system. And, being on paternity leave, I wasn't at work. So you have to create this new, what every day looks like. That's going to be survival mode. But in that time, you want to transition out of survival mode into thriving mode, into flourishing mode, into something other than just getting by. Now, it is easy to want to stay in survival mode because it's comfortable. Like you just do the bare minimum and we get through the day. But what happens is that over time doesn't allow you to grow, to feel, they say, no pressure, no diamonds, no irritant, no pearls. So you miss out on the opportunity of making those diamonds when you don't kind of get back into that routine and start making sense of the new chaos of the family. So for me, I remember I wanted to get back to work, whether it was actually going into office or building, right? So I'm writing a book right now and I wanted to get back into that and get back into exercising. So cutting out a time each day, whether it was only 30 minutes where I was exercising, where I was putting some structure into my day so that I can say, okay, once you have the structure of your day, you can start putting the chaos in it and finding the proper place for it. But when you don't have that structure and just kind of allowing the day to happen to you, then that's where your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for the emotion center of your brain, but also the one that's close to your hippocampus, which is for memory, that will take over. And that part of your brain is only focused on keeping you alive. It doesn't care if you're happy, doesn't care if you're sad, doesn't care any of this. It wants you to be alive. Now, if you're in survival mode, your brain, your prefrontal cortex is offline. So this is the part of your brain necessary for empathy, for connection, for meaning making, for these important executive functions. So it's important to get out of survival mode so that we can turn off the amygdala, or at least have the prefrontal cortex helping to co-regulate this aspect of your brain. Because if you don't do that, you'll notice in those 2 weeks without sleep, that you and your partner it's easier to snap at each other. Right? You and your spouse, it's easier to snap at each other. It's easier for you to snap and lose your patience with your children as well, because your emotional brain is taking over. That's why exercise is important, because exercise research has shown is as effective as antidepressants for regulating mood, but it's also a good focus aid. So you don't need to take Ritalin if you have that the good exercise in. And so here it's all about looking at it as a challenge, right? There's a mantra. So instead of seeing things as a threat where your amygdala gets activated, you want to say, bring it on. Now, I know that may sound crazy. It's
Yeah, a little
better to
bit.
shout it out when there's not people around, but to say, bring it on. Because when you say that, your brain fundamentally changes the way it's operating. When there's a threat, there's a whole sense, right? We have the adrenaline that goes through, we have the cortisol that's released, we have all this aspect. But when you say bring it on, your brain sees it as a challenge rather than as a threat. And so it's challenges are what? Something to be overcome. So then your brain will see it in the way of growth, and you won't fall back into that fight or flight stage, but instead, how can I overcome this challenge? How can I grow?
Oh, so it's like a mindset shift
100%.
from
It's where your focus goes.
survival to bring it on.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Well, so I'm imagining your home is pretty loud most of the time, or that you probably get up at 3 a.m. sometimes, unless you got a perfect sleeper already. What do you do to turn like that 3 a.m. wake up call or a chaotic living room from a nuisance to a forge for your character?
Literally, it's awareness. So this happens all the time. So I'm pretty much always awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, whether it's the newborn or whether it's my 2-year-old who comes down, or typically my 4-year-old likes to sleep with us. So she'll always come down, find her way in the middle, ask me for water. It's a whole thing. So you have all of these moving bodies, literally moving bodies that are deciding. So I can't tell you the last time I slept through the night and, had a restful sleep. So I have a Aura ring, which tracks my sleep and my readiness and whatnot. So today was supposed to be a heavy lifting day for working out, and my ring was like, absolutely not. Due to my sleep and my readiness was very low. So today was actually a recovery day. But what I see is I look at it through the awareness. I can focus on the fact that I'm awake and not asleep, or I can focus on I can kind of go down that rabbit hole. Man, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be tired in the morning. I really just want to sleep. But I can then flip it on its head and say, there are countless individuals, couples out there who would kill to have a child, to wake them up in the middle of the night, who want nothing more to be parents. And for whatever reason in their life, they're not able to be parents. So here I am with this blessing, or 2 or 3 or 5, and I'm taking them for granted. So in that moment, that it is a joy, it is a pleasure, it is an opportunity for me to know that, hey, your children trust you so much that in the middle of the night when they're afraid, they come to you. Or that whenever they, like last night, Esme, my 2-year-old, I don't know why she does this. And this is why I don't sleep through the night. Because she will go, because their room is upstairs. So she'll go to the top of the stairs and she'll go, Poppy. And I'll wake up and I'm like, was that Esme? And it's like, Poppy. So I'll have to get out of
Is it
bed.
a ghost or is it my daughter?
Right. Sometimes I'm like, please be a ghost. Please be a ghost. Please be. It's never a ghost. It's always my children. But I go in there, I comfort them, I put them back to bed. So it really is reframing this, instead of seeing it as a nuisance, as an opportunity to parent, an opportunity to be present. Because as you know, they grow up so fast. There's only so many more nights that they're actually going to need me. Then pretty soon they get into their teenage years. They don't want anything to do with you anymore because they're becoming their own little person. So for here, seeing it as the joy and opportunity that it is. Is it inconvenient? Yes. Does it sometimes suck because you want to sleep? Yes. But when you have that mindset shift and you say, this is a blessing, this is an opportunity, right? I will have countless more opportunities to sleep, but I only have a few more opportunities to be the dad who gets to show up and make and scare the monsters away.
It's beautiful. So talking about physicality and fatherhood, you've forged your body like through martial arts, through Spartan Ultras, through the crazy one where you almost lost your toes. And how does physical suffering, like that 30-mile race, prepare a dad for emotional and mental endurance required to be fully alive?
So it's really great about being a dad. So I don't go for the dad bod, right? Instead I
Come
go for
on.
the father figure. Not dad
Father
bod,
figure.
father
There you
figure, right?
go.
Yeah.
Working on your father figure.
Of course. But no, after you run a 30-mile race with 60 obstacles without training, and your legs are dead and your back hurts and you're just in pain, basically you build the mindset where you can take on whatever life throws at you. So just, it's one of those mornings where, all your kids have a dirty diaper, or a dirty diaper somehow got dislodged and now it's on the wall. And so you have to deal with that. Or, you're driving down the road and somebody spilled water everywhere, or Kool-Aid, or One time I was driving and Esme's nose just started bleeding, right? Just bleeding, and not like a little bit, like a lot. Just she's like, "Uh-oh, Poppy," and there's just blood everywhere. And I'm like, "Oh no."
Jeez.
Uh, but once you have that physicality of working out, of pushing your limits, of hardening your mind, whatever life throws at you, whether it's kids who are all having a tantrum at the same time, or it's bloody noses, or whatever it is, you will be able to not just be resilient, to be what I call enduragent. So this is a word that I've replaced with and replaced anti fertility. I really didn't like that word, anti fragility. Like you're not being fragile, okay, but I wanted to be enduragent. You're able to endure. You're able to become stronger from the stressors of life. So it's kind of like running the fire drill. So practicing that so that when the real emergency comes, you know what to do. And that's the same thing here. So my body is the temple, and my mind is, that's how you strengthen your mind most easily, most quickly, but also most durably, is through physical suffering. Because whenever you experience discomfort of some sort, your brain is going to be, okay, how do we get out of this? Whether you're too hot, whether you're too cold, whether you're tired, your brain wants to get out of it. But when you increase your capacity for discomfort, that then allows you to have so much more room, so much more ability when life throws those curveballs at you.
Makes me want to send this to every dad I know, you know? You've been talking about the Fully Alive program that you recently launched, and there was a topic that I don't know if everybody understands or is familiar with. You created a concept called closing the Aretic Gap. So could you explain what an Aretic Gap is and why the loudest years of fatherhood are maybe the best time to close that?
Oh, yes. So the Aretic Gap is the central kind of component of Fully Alive, or in the book I'm writing, the Code of the Unreasonable Life. It's that gap between who we are in actuality, like right here, right now, and who we are called to be in potentiality. So it's basically the gap between who we are and who God calls us to be. And the more obstacles that we have, I like to see life as an obstacle course. So that's why I do Spartan races, because the obstacles are there. How do you get to the end of a Spartan race? You go through the obstacles. If you're at a place where there's no obstacles, then you're on the wrong path. You're not going to get to that finish line. So when you are at the early years of fatherhood and you have the young ones at home, this is the perfect forge for closing that gap, because not only are you being you or learning to be you for yourself, but also for your kids. I think the biggest area of responsibility happened when I finally had my son. So I have 4 daughters and 1 son. So it was a daughter, 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 then son. So sometimes it's not the third time, but the fourth time is a charm. When you have daughters, you can just tell daughters to avoid the creepy guys, or the boys who, are dumb, or whatever you want to say. But when you have a son in a world that is more increasingly hating on masculinity and seeing it as this negative, this bad thing, right? And there's so many threats out there towards boys, right? Pornography, just so much. Now I felt this sense of even fear, because like, oh no, I have to raise this boy. I have to keep his innocence. I have to teach him to be a gentleman, but also to have that ability to defend and to keep his sisters, his mother, his family safe. And so for me, that was a responsibility. And in it, I say, like I told you earlier, bring it on. This is an obstacle. It is going to be uncomfortable, but on the other side of this obstacle is growth. So seeing every obstacle as having little nuggets or little seeds of growth within it. And so that's the Aretic Gap. Every day we close it. And instead of saying carpe diem, which is important, we want to seize the day. If you really want to seize the day, you have to carpe momentum. You have to seize the moment, because life happens in sections of 10-second moments. So you want to have a great day with your kids and your spouse, you win those 10-second moments. That moment where you're just like, oh, I want to rage out. I want to yell because I'm frustrated. But instead, I'm going to take a deep breath in, deactivate my amygdala, and activate my prefrontal cortex so that I can be empathetic, I can connect, I can reflect, and not let my emotions run wild. Because so many of us, it's in those 10 seconds that we blow up the day. So we had a terrible 10 seconds, and that feeds off into the rest of the day. So we had a bad day. Don't have a bad day for those 10 seconds. We want to pause, control that moment, because if you can control the moment, you can seize the moment. That's how you have the day. That's how you close the Aretic Gap. Not days at a time, but moment to moment. Then from day.
That's awesome. Another concept you talked about is the internal storyteller. Your program emphasizes that we aren't the stories our minds tell us. What's the most common lie that young dads believe about their purpose during this season of life?
There's actually several. One of them is I can do it all by myself. So society tells men that if we ask for help, we're weak, that if we don't know how to do something, we're incompetent, and then we're just terrible men. And right, there's a lot of guilt and shame around it, that we have to be the sole breadwinners and whatnot. So I think that that is the number one lie, is one that you can do it by yourself. There's a reason that says it takes a village. So men need other men to help be their tribe. We're not called to be singular individuals. We're called to be part of groups, part of the collective, part of the families, the communities, the parishes. So for there, it's about finding men who are further along the journey in you and having them mentor you. But then finding men also who are not quite as far in the journey. Maybe they're just getting married, or maybe they're thinking about having their first kid, so that you can mentor them. You have wisdom. Then you want that tribe that can help multiply your inputs, your thoughts, and they can see things that you haven't seen before, and they can give you insights that maybe you've missed. But also that group is to help divide those frustrations when we fail, or when we show up through the emotional side, and not through the not the stoic as in not feeling, but the stoic as in not letting my emotions take over me side that we hope to show. And so I think that's the number one thing is, men, we can't do it by ourselves. We need our tribe. We need our village. We need other men to pour in us. And that's how we grow. That's how we form. That's the difference between a present dad, just one who's there, and one who becomes a great dad or an exceptional dad who creates those moments that your kids will never forget. So your kids will never forget if you yelled at them all the time, but they'll also never forget if you were there for them and you gave them grace and you actually lived out the way that we are called to live out as fathers and as husbands, right? I want to be at my kids' weddings and hear them say, my dad loved my mom like none other. And that's how I want to be in my relationship, in my marriage, right? We want to give them the good things. Now, dads, here's the thing. We're going to mess up. Moms are going to mess up too, right? It's a part of life. So don't beat yourself up for messing up. Find out what led to the mess up and to figure out what can I do to correct that for next time. If you yelled at your spouse, you yelled at your kids, apologize for it. Figure out what led to that and let's cut it off, or let's cut off that track before we get there. So I have to think of it as going down a slide. And the slide is greased. So once you get up to the slide and you slide down, there's no way you're going to stop. It's already too late. So what is that step right before you slide down? And be conscious of that, right? Bring our awareness to it. And what is the step before that? And the step before that? So we want to get to the second step and, what is the protocol once I get to the second step to make sure that I turn around and go down and not continue up? Because many times what happens due to Hebb's law, neurons that fire together, wire together. So we think that someone said something and then we react in anger. But there's a lot of different mechanisms that occur before those words come out of our mouths. So we want to take our awareness, figure out what those steps are, and intercept them before we slide down into emotionality.
I love that image of the greased slide. Yeah, let's get off on the second step and get down, right? Instead
If
of
you've ever been
sliding.
down a grease slide, there is no way you can stop. Like, it's just,
No, but I have tried to climb a greased monument before. Anyway, so connecting faith with your Fully Alive program, you teach that fatherhood should align with a man's divine purpose. So how can a dad find that sense of sacred mission when he feels buried under diapers, bills, and professional demands?
in that. So there's a quote. This is a rough translation that's attributed to Marcus Aurelius, that when the obstacle gets in the way, the obstacle becomes the way. So for us to be holy fathers, like, the diapers are the way. They're the obstacles to get to that path. So it's how you change the diapers, how you interact through the day to day. It's when you just change that diaper and then your child uses the bathroom and then you're like, oh, now we got to change it again. Or you just fed them and they threw up, right? You have all these things that happen, but seeing it as a part of the journey. Every man, every woman too, but every man has their own individual calling. I like to say it's like cell differentiation. So every cell has the entire human genome, the DNA within it, but every cell is called to activate or to run one program. And so are we. We have the potentiality of all of humanity within us. But some of us are called to be doctors, some of us are called to be lawyers, some of us are called to be stay-at-home dads. Now, I try to tell my wife this, but she tells me I cannot stay at home. I have to go work. But I'm still holding out that I can be that stay-at-home dad.
Maybe
But
one
in
day.
that, right, if you have your family is a part of that mission. It's not separate from it. So it's going to be a part of this. So how you change your diapers, how you learn patience with your kids will show up in the boardroom, or it'll show up in the restaurant, or it'll show up wherever you're at. So these skills are transferable, and these characteristics. So it's the forge, right? The forge that heats you into this weapon that upholds truth, the gospel, but also defends the family. This comes from the day to day. It's not going to be these big battles, though we will have those. But as John Sephoric says in The Wealthy Gardener, where our life is made up in the parade of passing days. So let's make sure that the days that are passing, they have a purpose. They have a goal, a theme that will help us to close that gap, close between who we are and who God is calling us to be.
That's beautiful, Larry. We had a practical question from one of our listeners who asked, do you have a house cleaner or a maid?
Well, yes. So my wife and I, we are very blessed. We have a maid, we have a dishwasher, we have a cook, and we have a driver, and they're all called me. Me. No, we do not have outside maid help or cooking or whatnot, because remember, all of this is an opportunity. Could we get a maid? Probably. Could we get all these other things? But at the end of the day, I like to think of it this way. Now, everybody doesn't have to think this way, but my wife and I, we brought these beautiful blessings into the world with the help of God, of course. So it's up to us to figure out how to make it work. And I mean some sacrifice on my end or on my wife's end. We make it work. My wife has her own law firm, so she's working a lot. She's busy. So sometimes I have to pick up some of the slack in that area. Now, I see this as an opportunity to serve, not as a point of contention. So many times we want to think that, oh, well, I have to sacrifice this. I have to do this when my spouse can do this. But my wife is building these things for our family. She's not just doing it for her, she's doing it for us. So in those moments, I have to, this morning, actually yesterday morning, it was my wife's first day back after maternity leave. So I had to take all the kids in the morning where they needed to go. And so all the kids are upstairs except for the baby. So it's going up and down the stairs like 4 times, right, into the car. And then here's this and here's that. And then you can't turn on the car because you're paranoid that someone's going to steal my kids, right? So that's right. So you have to be fast and you have to buckle them in, and then you get them to the destination, and then you unpack them, and it's upstairs too. So this is one way that I work on my father figure, is by getting the kids into the car and out of the car. Is it stressful? Yes. Is it always easy? No. But guess what? It's such a joy. It's such an amazing experience to show love and to be there, because, I didn't have a father growing up. My dad is a Rolling Stone. He's probably still making dozens or more children out there. But for me, I wanted to be present, and I wanted to go through the hard things, because that's where the true joy and beauty of fatherhood is. It's not in the easy stuff. It's not in the gifts. It is in showing up. It's in the sacrifice. It's in the tiredness. It is in just all the craziness that happens in fatherhood. That is the true journey. That is the true joy. We can think about the destination, but I guarantee you, of all the parents that I've talked to who have teenagers or young adults or empty nesters, they talk about how they miss the crumbs in the house. They miss the toys everywhere, because that let them know what? That their house was inhabited. They had people there. It was alive. Now it's just them. It's quiet. So I've never heard parents say, hurry up and get them out the house. I say, no, slow down, enjoy the moments, even those that are difficult at the time, because those are where the true joy of parenthood is.
Great advice, Dr. Larry. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you
If you
for
have
having me, Liz. Appreciate it.
If you have just 1 second to add one thing that you'd like to say to maybe a burnout dad who is going home tonight, and you'd like to leave him with something to change how he walks through the door this evening, what would that be?
One, this may sound weird, but it's going to change the terroir of your mind. So the terroir is the environment that grapes grow in to be made into wine. And so the different wines are, depending on the terroir, that the composition of the soil, the altitude, all that. So I'd say for this, be careful what you're putting into your mind, right? So you'll be reading books that help encourage you, that help you grow. I would say avoid TikTok. I would say avoid the short reels and those things that are just for mind rot, right? Not really helping educate you or helping you close that Aretic gap. They're just there to kind of decompress. Now, decompression is important, but we want to make sure that our decompression is in alignment with who we want to become. So finding ways to decompress that allow us to learn a new skill, to maybe finding that time to exercise if you're not doing it right now, and to remember that a lot of what you're going through right now is temporary. So we want to find ways to change that mindset and to find out. Robin Sharma has this thing. The first thing is, he has these questions to ask when you're going through hard times or you've experienced burnout. Number one, how could this be worse? Because typically we are in tunnel vision when things are bad, right? And so we block out all the blessings, we block out everything. So we say, how could this be worse? As bad as it is, how could it be worse? Second is, what is the opportunity here? Because remember, obstacles are the way. So what is the opportunity here? Does the version of me look like on the other side of this? Number 3 is, how am I still blessed? So no matter what I'm going through right now, how am I still blessed? How am I still thankful for the things that are in my life? And finally is, in 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years, is this gonna be a big deal? Is this gonna be important? Or will it have already fallen by the wayside?
Thank you so much. If anybody would like to be in touch with Dr. Larry, I'm going to place his information in the chat. You can always find him at latare.com, latarehealth.com, pardon me. And let's see. We thank you, Dr. Larry, for joining us today on our webinar.
Well, I appreciate you, Liz, and hopefully this is not the last time I'm here. Maybe I'll be back soon.
I can bet you will. Thank you all.